Hello. We at the Ilitch School of Business have put together a few brief videos to help you learn about supply chain management, and our objective is to transfer over the insight that should help you to evaluate if a degree in supply chain management is right for you. This first video is a short overview of supply chain management to help students understand what do we mean by a supply chain. A second video will describe common career paths in supply chain management, and a third will talk about studying supply chain management here at the Mike Ilitch School of Business. So let's get started and first talk about supply chain management. What is a supply chain? So the easiest way for students to understand what we mean by a complete, comprehensive supply chain is to think, how do products come to exist and end up in our possession? You can look at the iPhone in your hand or on your desk right now. You can think of the automobile that you may own that you drive around. You can think about a ride at an amusement park at Cedar Point, a roller coaster you went on. So all products and services come to exist through some simple and some complex supply chains. And supply chain management is the entire process and connection of businesses, that whole network that bring those products and services to market, to you and me. When we eat an ice cream cone, we don't normally think about all the activities that occurred for that delicious product to be presented to us over the counter. But if we think about it, the ice cream manufacturer, the dairy farm, the veterinary services, the equipment at the farm, the feed for the cows, all of these things are part of the supply chain that brought it to us. We can add another dimension and think about the transportation involved, the logistics. So we have refrigerated product that is perishable. So we have refrigerated trucks, refrigerated warehouse, retail placement that is also refrigerated. We have expiration dates. It's perishable. We have to make sure we manage our stock FIFO, first in, first out, to make sure we don't have products hiding somewhere in our stock that are aging before they should have been used up. So there's lots of activities going on in that supply chain to make sure we can have a good experience when they hand us that ice cream cone. These types of specialized activities occur in nearly all supply chains, and it continues up and down the channel of the supply chain. Depending on the product and the context, supply chain will specialize, like we talked about with the refrigeration and the expiration dates in the case of ice cream. It can be useful to think of the supply chain as a river that flows to us for consumption as consumers. The river is a simplified concept, but supply chains can be very complex. But they do always flow to us as the consumer. Let's look at a diagram depicting that flow in a rough structured sense. Look at this image, this simplified image, and think about raw materials, components, manufacturer, retailer, consumer, and think of a product. Let's think of an automobile. Well, we have various raw materials. We have iron, we have steel, we have aluminum, we have plastic resins, which are even coming from a further up the chain raw material of petroleum. There's sophisticated electronics in the car. There's all sorts of engineered systems, such as a complete dashboard from one supplier and a complete drivetrain system from another supplier. So there's a very complex supply chain in place bringing us this car, with tiers of actually suppliers. The manufacturer would be the Chevrolet, the Ford, the Chrysler, the Fiats, the Toyotas, the Hondas, all of those who design and are responsible really for the final product. The retailer would be the new car dealer, and then there's us, right? So everything flows down towards us, and all the value that is created in there is what we're willing to pay for to give us the car that we want. The waste that is in that supply chain has to be somehow accounted for by that supply chain. So supply chains seek to be efficient so that the maximum amount of profitability can be divided by these participants. Of course, they fight over that profitability. Who gets to keep it? But they all know that waste is something that can only hurt all of them. So squeezing the waste and driving efficiency into the supply chain and its processes is part of supply chain management. There's another aspect of supply chain management that's growing in importance, and that is just that companies, consumers, very importantly, uh, government entities are becoming more and more in tune with the finite aspect of the Earth's resources, and products are being designed for end of life, basically reduction in waste, reuse of components, and recycling objectives. A car is a good example of that we can use because 80% of a car is recycled and does not end up in landfill, and that number continues to go up. This is a simplified view of the cardboard industry, and you see here we have the raw material of forestry coming in to the paper manufacturer, but we also have a return loop of used paper here that's gone through its useful life and is being returned back into the paper industry so that less trees need to be consumed and that less paper goes into the landfill. This area is huge in electronics, in heavy metals, in dangerous, hazardous wastes, but it's also growing in all sorts of areas of industry. Cars are an easy example to talk about. Rubber is churned up and used as landscape mulch, used in shoes that you and I buy, used in the roads that we drive in. Windshields are crushed, melted, and turned back into new windshields. Car bodies are crushed and melted to be turned back into steel. Aluminum is used over and over and over and over again because aluminum has always been an excellent product for reuse. It melts down and is the same as the virgin material just by basically recycling it back through. So reverse logistics, taking things back through from here after its final use and moving it back into the raw material phase, is a very growing area in supply chain. If we think about activities of the supply chain is pervasive in organizations. It touches so many different areas of the business. Some of this being strategic and some of it being more tactical. And we can think about the areas of supply chain jobs, which we'll talk about in more detail in the next video, but we can think about some of the strategic and tactical jobs that are available in supply chain. If we are working in logistics, then we might think about, should we own or outsource our trucks, our delivery vehicles, our warehousing, ships if we have international business, the actual arrangement of scheduling shipments and so forth is something that firms decide to sometimes outsource to a 3PL, a third-party logistics provider. On the other hand, companies like a Walmart treat logistics as a competitive advantage, an area that they're very specialized in and better than their competitors in, so they own their own vehicles, and they tend to take care of all their own logistics as a complete proprietary system because it is part of how they compete. It's not tactical. The areas of purchasing and supply management involve some strategic areas. Which suppliers should we work with? Who should be our best suppliers? How do we maintain excellent relationships? How do we develop those suppliers? How do they grow with us internationally and build locations where we want to build locations? It also can be very tactical. How do we negotiate a better contract for this part that we need to source today? So there's tactical and strategic aspects to many different areas. In the operations side, the third kind of bucket of supply chain type jobs, that's the conversion of our resources into a product that basically our customer is willing to pay for. And again, there's tactical and strategic. How much capacity do we need? Should we build a new plant? Where should we build that plant? How much labor do we need? What kind of equipment should we purchase? Worth tens of millions, sometimes billions of dollars to put up a new plant. That's a very strategic decision. Which equipment and what kind of capacity and so forth. But from a tactical point of view, operations is concerned with what do I have to do today, this hour, this week, to make sure that my customers' demands are met in a very high quality way. How do I meet all my commitments to my customers in a way that earns us the most possible profit and delights and satisfies them? Well, those are many times very tactical things. Did the truck bump the dock that was supposed to at 9 o'clock with a new delivery of printed circuit boards? Did we release the right amount of components to this critical supplier for next week so that our inventory is sufficient, but not too much to build what we need to next week? So there's many, many different types of jobs. We'll talk about them a little bit more in the next section. We hope that this video gave you a basic understanding of supply chain. What is a supply chain? Is it an area that you'd like to look more deeply into when you think about your career and your education here at the Mike Ilitch School of Business?